All right, let's take a look at Canvas real quick. And if we got week 2's module has been posted. So this week we're going to be talking about mapping today, and then coordinate systems on Thursday. So chapter 3 covers today, and I have a so for each chapter there's this little tutorial exercise. Chapter 1 has been posted. That's going to be due on the 3rd, so I think that's Friday. Let's just double check. Yeah, so that's due on Friday. Let's just take a look together about what these are and what we're trying to do here. So I say complete the teaching tutorial. If we go to the book, and here's the online version, I'll go to chapter 1. And there's always going to be a little reading. It's never very long. It kind of introduces vocab and that sort of thing. So this is what we covered in last class's lecture. Sometimes I'm going to assign some review questions in the assignment for a chapter. Sometimes I don't. Just look at the instructions for each one. So there's some reading questions. The next section is going to be, it's called Mastering the Skills teaching tutorial. And this is the step-by-step walking through, giving you instructions. The online book has videos. You can access those videos separately if you have the paper book. And that link is in Canvas, just as a reminder. And then it'll walk you through, in this case, opening an existing map and learning kind of the navigation, that sort of thing. At the end, and so what I usually do, I think for the first couple ones, they're not very long, so I just have you do the whole thing. As we go, they're going to get longer and complex, and I try to select the most important things that I want you to do. And so you'll see in subsequent tutorial assignments, I say do steps 1 through 30 and then 62 through 84 or something like that. So I try to focus you on what I think is important and not just have you just do everything all the time. At the end, so you kind of do these tutorials, it's step by step. There's going to be some embedded questions sometimes. For example, you'll see it's in there numbered too. So to say, how many counties does Oregon have? List the smallest and largest counties with their 2014 populations in Oregon. So pay attention to those, and you'll want to kind of separate those out and respond to them as we go. And then at the end, there's practice exercises, and this is having you, so you've gone through all these steps, you kind of learned some new tools and concepts. Now you apply that on your own, and that's what these practice exercises are. So I'll give you a handful of these to do, and it's essentially kind of you doing your own work. So the questions I'd like you to do are going to be under each assignment. So for chapter 1, I say just do questions 1 through 4 and then 8. In the practice exercises, and I give you a little bit more information. I think they say make a 1 to 2 page report. I say don't worry about that, just answer the questions. So that's a lot of little things. The point of me kind of going over them all is to orient you to the fact that I'm not asking you to do everything for each chapter. So just read the instructions, and I spell it out there. At the end of the day, what I'm looking for is one document. Maybe there's some reading questions. There's going to be some screenshots with captions of the tutorial. There's going to be some answers to the embedded questions in the tutorial, and then some responses to the practice exercises. So these first so many weeks, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks, are going to be pretty stacked. we're going to be working through the GIS stuff at a pretty rapid pace. Then we get into GPS surveying, and then we'll revisit GIS, but just with more kind of raster analysis, kind of more complex applications with civil engineering. So the pace will slow down, and really kind of by mid-October, or sorry, by November, the pace is going to be pretty slow. So there will be a final project, and we'll kind of give you more bandwidth to be working on that. But these kind of, 2 assignments a week pace is only going to be for the first kind of third of the semester. All right, let's go to, hang on, let me just pause this super quick. Zoom recording. Great. I need to share the screen. Okay, so for this map, we have kind of an overview, right? So here's a region. Here's looks like a country in that region. Or maybe it's, I don't know, this is Pakistan, India. So this looks like some sort of province, and then maybe a county level area. So they're kind of orienting you. They're creating 3 different maps here to say, here's the overall region, here's a zoom in, and then here's an even farther zoom in to this particular township or something like that. So 1, 2, 3 maps, and this is just a visual orientation going from big scale to small scale. And then we get to see the detail of what we're actually interested in here. Now this map has a scale, a legend, and then a north arrow. It's actually got 2 legends. They have streams here, and then they have elevation, and then some labels. Just looking at this map, let's talk about it. What do we like about this map, and what do we think might not be necessary about this map?
I like the green and the elevation.
Yeah, it's a nice color scheme. It's pretty, it pops pretty well. It says streams. Is that necessary? No. No, we know those are streams, right? Or you could have like a little label saying, yeah, let's keep it simple, right? I'm all about only show the information you need to show and nothing more. Elevation, that works. Of course, it's a little like when you start at 1179 and go to 7665 or whatever that is, that's a little awkward because we kind of think in round numbers, and so you can always arbitrarily set your legend to a round number, maybe 1100 or 1000 meters, and go all the way up to 8000. Your color scheme will stop on the map before that, but you can adjust the legends to have more round numbers just to help the reader. That's an auto thing because this particular digital elevation model here happens to go from that value to this value, right? And so ARC will just do it automatically. I've seen many maps produced where the categories will start and stop at these seemingly random numbers just because that's the starting and stop point of the data. And so to make, I think, a cleaner map, it's nice to have the legends start and stop at round numbers. Just a comment there. These are nice right here. These are Latin long. They're called graticules. I actually don't know how to pronounce that. And you'll, in chapter 3, we'll learn how to put those in. So this orients you in space, and sometimes that's helpful to include as well. Maybe you don't need them everywhere like they have here. That's a little noisy. Let's take a look at, I thought we had one more map here. Okay. Here's another interesting map. This is 3 maps again. And it looks like it's county level data. mortality rate for cancers. They have it broken down by males and females. They've got this interesting legend here where blue is more male and magenta is more female. And they've got it combined, then they also break it out just so you can kind of see the difference if this is too complicated, for example. So these are 3 separate maps produced in one layout, and we'll look in ArcGIS about how to do those different layouts. So let's do that. So I'm going to open, let's see here, this Crater Lake project, and you all can follow along and do that. I'll give you a couple of minutes to get there. So to download the course content data, we can go to Mastering ArcGIS Pro Online Content, Student Edition, and then you click on ArcGIS data sets. I also have them posted in other locations on Canvas. But this is a zip file and you download this. So if you haven't done that already, go ahead and download it and then put it somewhere in a cloud folder that's not your R drive or on your the course folder for this course. And then once you download it, we go to open under ArcGIS and then browse. To where you saved it. And the folder will be, so if you're working off of your desktop, there's going to be a documents folder that ArcGIS will create an ArcGIS folder there when you install it. And then I saved the class GIS class folder into the projects folder. So it's there, and then under class projects, there's Crater Lake. This .aprx file is the project file, and that's going to contain the map and all the visual information saved there. Yeah, you don't need a terabyte. So if you get a hard drive, 100 gigabytes should be fine, I think, for this class, or a thumb drive. Yeah. So here we have Crater Lake in Oregon, and what we have here is a map. And you know it's a map because when you click on this tab, the map tab, it comes up. And a map is just simply a data. The map has a base map. So if you look at base map right here, you can click on this and come up with a number of different base maps, just like on Google Maps or something like that. The default is imagery, maybe an imagery hybrid that has rows, or sorry, the default is probably topographic right here that we have. So you can choose whatever base map you want. You don't have to use base maps either. You can just go here and this is the base map, topographic, and I can uncheck it and it goes away. Base maps are nice because they orient us where we are on the map, or our data in the right place, etc. But we don't necessarily want them all the time. I'll just leave it on for now. So in this map, let's just look at what data we have. There's the geology data, and there's the crater floor geology, which actually is underneath this lake footprint. So they've mapped the geology on the crater floor. Different labels for rock classes and different rock types. And so those are all polygons that have been labeled. There's the lake footprints, and that's just for kind of a visual overlay. And then we have vents and faults. So we have polygons for the geology. We have polylines for the faults. Those are those black lines. And that's just where the rock has kind of slipped from earthquakes. It's also where earthquakes might happen. And then vents are, volcanic vents. And those are points, a point shape file, symbolized as a triangle. We also have this hill shade image. I'm going to turn off the topography and turn off the geology. And you can see this hill shade image. Hill shade images come from digital elevation models, and we'll talk about them later in class. But basically, it's if you've got this topographic imagery, a hill shade will present it in a three-dimensional manner that looks 3D, as if the sun were shining at a certain angle and direction. So you can imagine the sun is modeled here, shining from this way at a certain angle. There's kind of shadows, that sort of thing. So it just lets you see the land in a visually intuitive way. And what they've done is they've made this layer, the geology layer, a little bit transparent. And the way to do that is on this particular layer. You click on a layer in the contents pane. So here's the contents. This is like your table of contents. And I go to layer appearance. And then I can go to transparency. Right now it says 0%, but I don't actually believe it's 0, but let's do 50%. You can see that it went to be a lot more transparent. I'm going to do 25%. And what we have now is you can actually see the hill shade underneath the geology. And so that gives you that three-dimensional aspect. We could also make this lake transparent. So I'll click on lake on the label. And I'll make that transparent. Say, let's do 30%. And then you can see the geology underneath if you're interested in doing that. How do they do that? I have no idea. They have a boat that sends down seismic waves or something, and then different geologies bounce back different frequencies, or maybe they take cores, or maybe they have scuba diving geologists that go down. I have no idea how they do that. Be a fun gig though, right? So there's a lot of different types of data on here, right? We have the polygons, polylines, we have the hill shade image, and then we also have this base map, which I can change. Let's go back to map, base map, and say I just want to do imagery. And then it has satellite imagery, just like Google Maps would. And I could take the geology off just by unchecking, right? I could take the hill shade off. And now I just have the imagery with the geologic data. And we can actually see what Crater Lake looks like. There it is. So the next thing we'll do, and this is what you'll be working on in chapter 3, is you'll create a layout. So the map is really just to do your kind of analysis. You maybe work on symbology. Chapter 2 is symbology. So it'll go over kind of how to work with that. But I guess I can talk about that briefly before we get into layout. So symbology is going to be how you present the data. And let's just go through some examples of that. We'll start with the vector data. So the most simple way to change symbology is to kind of think about points and the symbols we have for points. So if I double click on, or actually it's not double click, just click on vents. I come over here and I see that we have a single symbol. let's just right click on events over here and see what kind of data is in there. If I right click, there's a ton of things that come up. I want to go to attribute table. An attribute table brings up the database, the geospatial database associated with events. Now this is a pretty simple one. The object ID, the shape, right? It tells you it's a point. And then here's some actual information. It says point type, event, okay. Well, look, there's a couple of different types, event and event concealed. There could be other information here, maybe event diameter or depth or something like that, right? And that would just be a new column with data associated with that. We'll get into attribute tables and how to mess with them and do analysis with them later. But there's a lot of, kind of calculations and stuff you can do with the data. So I'm going to close that attribute table. It goes away. And I say single symbol. Everything's a triangle. If I don't like triangles, I could click on that. You could also click on the symbol itself and it'll bring up options. So say, oh, I don't like the triangles. I want to make it a circle. So here's my events. That pops a little bit more. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. I can also choose, so there's a lot of predefined symbols here. There's hundreds of them. If I don't like what it is, I can say, okay, I like that circle, the red circle with the dot in it. I want to change that. So I'm going to go to properties. So this is gallery. I click on one, I go to properties. I can say, well, let's just change the color. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. I'm going to reduce the size because that's a little big. You can even get into a lot more details of it. So you can always change the symbol and update and customize it based on your preferences. Let's look at faults real quick. And I'm going to do attribute table. The faults, they only have one category. So we'll go back to events and let's see if we can do something with events. I'm going to click on events, just the label. And it comes up, the symbology pane comes up over here. You see symbology. And right now it says single symbol. Well, I could do other things. I don't have numeric data to work with, but I do have unique values. And based on the point type, I have lots of unique values potentially. So let's see what we have. I click on the plus symbol and it gives me the options. We have two different options. So I'm just going to assign different point types to these. I'm going to edit the properties. So one was black, and then we'll do one as gray. I press apply. I go back, press OK, and then we have, right now it says 1. Let's just make sure we add everything. Okay, so I did plus, I added event concealed. I'm going to do plus. We're just going to have the normal event and press OK. And now we have these two kinds of events here in two different symbols. I'll make these a similar symbol as before. We'll make them black. And then now we have the gray and then we have the black. So concealed events and then just normal events. So 2 categories, and I use this plus symbol based on unique values to add those categories. And the reason why they didn't do it all at once is maybe you've got 18 different categories and you really only want to display 4 of them or something like that. Say this event data had numeric data like the radius, then I could do some other options. I could go to symbology. I could do graduated colors or symbols or proportional symbols. And that's where when we looked at that map with the flood intensity data, that's what I used. So I had proportional symbols, I had different colors. The bigger the flood intensity, the bigger the circle. And then also I assigned different colors to those. That's just a little introduction to symbology. You will, in chapter 2, they'll walk you through editing symbols and thinking about scales and stuff like that for symbolizing data. QGIS, yep, very similar. QGIS is based off of ArcGIS. It's just open source free. Yeah. So if you're familiar, if you've used other GIS software, it's going to be very similar. They put event right here. That makes sense, right? All right, so the next thing we'll do is we're in this map. We have a map layout, or sorry, just a map window here with the contents, with the data. One thing I'll orient you to is this catalog. The catalog is like Explorer or File Explorer. And it's got a lot of different things. We're going to be interested in the folder. This is where you access data. And the folder is going to go to the folder where the map document's been created. So we opened this map document up in the Crater Lake folder. It's got a GeoDatabase and then some data. The GeoDatabase, we'll talk about later, has a lot of information in it. These are the shapefiles and rasters that are contained within the GeoDatabase. This is basically just a folder. It's a nice way to organize your data. If you go to Windows Explorer and look at a GeoDatabase, it's going to kind of look like gibberish. So if I go to Documents, ArcGIS, Projects, Crater Lake, there's that GeoDatabase. It looks like a folder. If I open it up, I don't know what's going on in there, right? It's kind of like looking inside of a cocoon. It's just goo and weird files. So it's really only readable within ArcGIS. But these are all the files that are in there, and these are just shape files. If I wanted to bring in something new, some new information, I go to Catalog, I find the shape files I'm interested in, and then I just click and drag them over. So I want to bring in the park boundary. I'm going to click on it and just drop it in the map. You can also drop it into contents. So this is a national park. That's the boundary of the park. The order and the contents matters, right? Just like in CAD, if this is above everything, then it's going to draw on top of everything. So maybe I want to drag it down a little bit into the order so that these things display differently. For polygons, you can have them filled or hollow. And in this case, we don't want it filled. So I just click on the symbol right there, click on it, and it says click to modify symbol. And then I find a different outline that I like. If I don't like black, then I click on this. That's a starting point. I come over here. It says color, no color, right? And then maybe I want to make the outline yellow and then increase the width. Once I've done all that, I press apply, and then it goes and does that. I'll bring the base map back in just so we can see it. There we go. So catalog is going to be where you access data. You can also add data this way. It says add data. There's a plus. If you click on this, then it opens a window and you can navigate to where the data are that you want to bring in. I like to use catalog just because it shows you everything and you can kind of organize stuff a little bit better. It's nice for a particular project to create a folder. You have your GeoDatabase. We'll ignore the toolbox. I don't think we'll get into geoprocessing, but you kind of keep everything in the same place because this map, all these contents are linked to data in this one folder and then in this GeoDatabase. And if I were to move things around or send a map file to you and didn't send the GIS data, all the links would be broken and it just wouldn't work. So keeping everything in the same place in the same folder is good practice. All right, the last thing we'll do, and then we'll do some time to work on the tutorials, is we'll create a layout. So again, the map tab is just how to kind of view data, kind of get everything zoomed in, get the color scheme nice. I'm going to turn this base map off. And then once we kind of get everything labeled and symbolized how we like it, we can create a layout and actually produce a PDF map that we might put in a report. So to do that, I go to Insert. You can make a new map if you want to. In this case, we're going to do a new layout. So layout is the actual kind of publishing a map. Gives you paper sizes. We'll do landscape. And it gives you a blank map. This is basically, we're going to put the GIS data into a document now. So the first thing we need to do is add a map frame. This is what will display your GIS data. And it gives you options of how far in to zoom. So we'll just do this middle one. And then now you get this bullseye cursor. This is allowing you to draw the actual map. And this is always a little wonky. I like to kind of give 1/2-inch margins. So you can kind of see on the ruler here. I don't know. We're still sharing. Okay, good. I thought we stopped sharing for a second. I'm going to go to 1/2-inch margins. So here we go, 8 and 0.5. And then I click and then drag. So click and drag, and then we'll kind of bring it all the way over here. And so we'll have 1/2-inch margins everywhere. So I clicked on map frame. I went to the middle zoom range, and then I got this cursor with the crosshairs, and I found the location I wanted, and I clicked and dragged. Okay, so now we have our map, and there's a couple things we can do. If we don't like the zoom necessarily, we want to zoom in a little bit more. We have to do what's called, oh, I just made another one. Click on this and you can see that I've selected it. The little boxes come up. Right click and do activate. And now what this does is allows me to edit the or zoom and pan in here. So I'm going to just zoom in a little bit because I'm interested in Crater Lake. I'm using the scroll wheel of my mouse to zoom. It's going to have, certain steps that might be a little too big. You can see down here, it says 1 to 51,000. Say I don't like that. I want to zoom out a little bit. Zooming out means a bigger number. So I'm going to type in 60,000. And then maybe we'll just do a little bit more, 65,000. Okay. So that can do some fine tuning. I can click and drag to pan it. All right. So we'll put it right smack in the middle. And then when I'm done and I've adjusted everything, I can go up to here, close the activated map frame. I can also right click. Maybe not. I thought there's another way to do it. Anyway, we'll just do it this way. Oh, here we go. Under the activation pane, you can do close activation. And then now it's locked in. So now we're back in the document and I can move this around if I want to. This is just the window, but this is kind of treated as an image essentially. If I want to update the symbology, I can still go over here. I'll go back to the map tab and I'll say, well, you know what? This gray isn't really sticking out. So I'm going to click on that symbol and make it, we'll make it red. All right. And then I go back to my layout and it's red. So I can still do adjustments and stuff like that over here and it'll populate over here. I'm going to insert a couple things. So we're under map frame. I click on layout. We have map frame ribbon that comes up. Insert a north arrow. If I click on the down arrow, it gives me a bunch of options. You can pick one that you like. So I clicked on that black one. It gives me the crosshairs. I drag, create a box, and then it'll give me a north arrow. There's some best practices. It's nice to kind of keep everything together in a corner somewhere, but you can move things around how you like. Scale bar, insert a scale bar. Let's choose, there's this basic one right here. I'm going to click and drag and draw it. And there's my scale bar. Let's see here. So you can drag things around. It's going to be a little clunky because it kind of likes to lock things in. If I click on something and I do control and then up, it allows me to move it a little more slowly and position it in a way I like. And then if I don't like the gradations, like I want to get it on half a mile, or say I want to go out to 2 miles, I can just widen it until it gets to the demarcations that I like, kind of more even demarcations. The last thing we'll do is a legend. This is a little more complicated. I click on legend, I drag, and it's going to show me everything. So a legend will show initially everything under the sun. If you see these 3 marks right here, that means there's more information. And so you have to make it bigger to show absolutely everything. All right, so I made it super big and now those little 3 ellipses is gone. I don't want to show all this in the legend. This isn't really necessary. So what I'm going to do is right click and go on properties. Actually, no, I'm going to go over here. So under contents, drawing order, here's the legend. And you can actually check what things you want in the legend. I don't want the hillshade. We don't need that. So I'm going to uncheck hillshade. I don't want park boundary. I'm going to, there's some repeat, it looks like, in the rock types. So I'm going to uncheck rock types. And then now I can bring it down a little bit. I want to do faults. I don't want to include lake. That's obvious. And then we've got the vent types. All right, so now things are looking a little bit better. If I don't like the text in here, I can actually edit it. So it says vents, PP type, or something like that, PT type. If I just delete that, it's going to go away. Now it just says vent, vent concealed, or vent. I can change this to say, I'm just clicking on it and then editing the text. I can click on this to say concealed vents, just so that the grammar is a little bit better. And then finally, I can click on this legends and go to display and give it some fill so we can see the color a little bit better. That was the border. Here's the background. Now I can actually see the legend. And I'll just attach it over here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I didn't like, water, I wanted to get rid of that or something, I can actually go in here and say, I don't want to display water as a rock type. So I can go click on crater floor geology. Actually, I have to go back to map to do this. Crater floor geology. Oh, rock type. Let's see, symbology. There we go. So symbology, I clicked on rock type. And then water, and maybe I want to remove that. So now it's gone. I don't want to do all other values either. Can I remove that? Yep. I'll remove all other values. I could go over here and remove all other values because there wasn't anything else. So that's just redundant information. So I go back to the map, and then I can actually edit this and clean it up a little bit, right? I can change the colors of these if I want to. And then you go back to layout, and then it cleans up your table of contents a little bit better too. Now, what's that?
Are you able to bring them back?
Yeah. So if I go to map, and it's always nice to kind of save. So the map file saves all the symbology stuff. I haven't saved anything yet. So I could always like close and open it back up. Also, I can go back to rock type, and you see this plus symbol. All right, so what's not listed? Sand's not listed. Apparently water wasn't a thing. I don't know. So you can go back and add things back. That's the way you would do it. Yeah. And what it's doing is it's looking in the field. So the shape file is this geology layer. And then the field is rock type. In this attribute table, there's actually a lot of different things. Let's look at that real quick. So I right click, I go to attribute table. And there's a lot of information here. There's like a more descriptive name, there's the age, there is the volcanic class, and then rock type. And so this symbology is pulling from this particular field in the attribute table. And so I selected that, and then they did the color scheme right here. But you could also, I could just do right click, copy, paste into the map. And then I could uncheck this, and then maybe I want to symbolize this differently. I want to do, click on this. Come on, symbology, where you at? Right click. Symbology. And then I want to say, okay, now I'm going to display this as age. And so here are the different ages, right? So just a different way of displaying it. When you copy and paste stuff in the contents, it doesn't make a new file. It just copies the layer and allows you to do new symbology over it. So if you want to mess around and have different versions. Back to the layout, one more thing is I can't really see the scale bar very well, or the north arrow because of the colors. So if I go to, let's see here. If I click on just layout and then insert, I can insert a shape. So I'm going to insert a rectangle. I'm going to drag it over here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then you go to the drawing order, the rectangle is on top. I want to put it all the way below the north arrow. And then we'll click on that rectangle. And let's see if we can do, we'll give it a white background. And there we go. And I can make my north arrow a little bit smaller, bring everything down. And then just kind of minimize this. And now I have that information. All right. And if I like everything, I save as I go. And then we can come back and then if I'm good, I'm ready to there we go. If I like everything and I'm ready to publish this, then I save it, I go to share, and then export layout. PDF, and then you can do a bunch of stuff with that, export, and then I get a nice PDF map. Which is going to be right here. So let's start on some of the tutorial work. We got about 15 minutes. I'm happy to hang around a little bit longer too. There's our PDF map. Not super pretty. We can go back and edit it as we need to. A little bit of issues with the legend there. All right.